Time to talk wrestling now, and joining us, Cody and Brandy Rhodes. Cody, a legacy in the business. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
A wrestler at Lassiter High School for years, right?
Yes, and you brought up my 2 state titles, which I relish in and consider somewhat the glory days. My
Two-time
wife,
Georgia State champion. Of course, Brandy, you're probably sick of hearing that, aren't you?
Yes, but you know, we can do it. He was just going to say that. I consider those his glory days. Even amongst everything that we're doing now, that's where he goes most frequently.
It was a big deal.
To the state championship.
It is a big deal.
It was a big deal, you know? So, yeah, that was
170.
I was, the two state titles were at 189. And then the first year on varsity, it was 171. Coach Steve Day. And I mean, the reason I consider it a big deal is because my dad was from the world of professional wrestling.
Right, yeah.
The Hollywood aspect of wrestling, whereas like the grit of folk style wrestling, I wasn't supposed to be good at, and I was. So.
Yeah, so tell us about your dad, of course, the American Dream. Everybody loved the American Dream. You're the Nightmare. So where did that come from?
And it's actually so funny, the name, the American Nightmare, I got dubbed that for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Right after I'd left WWE, I'd gone over to New Japan and did a show in the Tokyo Dome, and they just love kind of the legacy of Dusty, but because I had often been a bad guy in the business, and my dad was always like a career good guy, that they just loved the American Nightmare, and the Japan fan base like gravitated towards it, and it just carried on when we came back.
You know, Brandy, now you have a master's degree, isn't that right? Tell us about
Broadcast
that.
journalism, yeah.
Broadcast journalism.
This was what I wanted to do, sit behind this desk and interview people, and then how things changed.
Well, you became a reporter, didn't you, for a little while?
I did in Michigan. I was in Flint, Michigan for a while, and then made my way down to Miami, and you know, the sun was calling my name, and that's where wrestling started for me.
Yeah, so down in Miami, so I mean, yeah, what was the epiphany that said, hey, I'm getting out of TV, I'm gonna go into wrestling?
Well, you know, I had kind of lost my love for reporting and everything, but then there was this part of me, I really wanted to do that since I was 5 years old. That's what everybody said. What did you want to do? I want to be a TV news anchor. So weird for a 5-year-old. But anyways, and I kind of lost my love for it, so I went to Florida to find it by going to grad school, and I was finding it, and I was, yeah, this is really what I want to do. I'm ready to get back into the field. And I was scouted to become a female wrestler, which is so random. And we don't do that really anymore unless you're already a pretty prevalent independent circuit female wrestler. So I was one of the last ones that was just, hey, you athletic? You want to try this? Sure.
But now you've gone from being a ring person to an actual performer in this, right?
Yeah. So I was a ring announcer for a long time, which that's, you know, the person that in center ring tells you everything that's happening during the show. You know, I announce the people coming to the ring. I tell you the stipulations for the match. Actually, a very not too much of a departure from being a news reporter. Right. But I always had this feeling, I grew up a figure skater. I skated for 17 years. I always wanted to perform. I didn't want to just deliver the information. I wanted to perform. And then when I would see people like Cody, you know, hit the ring and do all these wonderful things and tell these fantastic stories in the ring, I wanted a piece of that. So I set out to find that, and here we are.
Cody, what do you think? Huh? I mean, she's obviously a great performer.
She's a wonderful performer, and I was going to say I didn't want to interrupt her, though. If you give Brandy, if you present her with like a real small bite, basically, that's not accepting of it. She likes to go big. She likes to be in the main event, which is a recipe for a really good pro wrestler, the one who wants to be the top thing, the main event.
Okay, we've got AEW Dynamite, right? How is that different from, you know, I mean, if you grew up in Atlanta, you know, Monday Nitro, right? So how is that different? How is the AEW Dynamite different?
It's funny you mentioned Nitro because the same producer who produced WCW for so many years is our executive producer, which is Keith Mitchell, and there's so many familiar people from the Turner family who were here in the late 80s. It's crazy. My dad comes here in 1988, takes a picture in front of the Techwood Mansion, and then in 2019, 2020, we're taking the same picture. If people were familiar with Monday Nitro, they'll find that there's a lot of similarities. We, as a wrestling company, try to provide a wrestling alternative, gritty, more violent, more sports-based, a little bit more wrestling.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want wrestling. We want wrestling out there. We want talking, and we want wrestling.
It's 100% what we do, and I'm excited for Atlanta because this is a home game for us. Is a way to put it. You know, we've traveled all around every Wednesday live on TNT, but to be able to do it in State Farm, it's like bringing it home. For me, literally, but romantically, there's this notion of this is where it all started in the first place.
You know, Brandy, tell us about the show that we're going to see at State Farm Arena coming up.
It's the very first time ever that we're going to see a steel cage introduced to All Elite Wrestling. So that is one of the highest stakes matches, period, end of story. You got to see the first. Like you're going to be live to see the first. Like that's amazing. You're going to feel sweat. You're going to feel, everybody's tension. And that's the part that I'm the most excited for, even though that makes no sense because he's in the steel cage. So I'll be biting my nails. Yeah, but also so excited.
Our first cage match as a company, and I like to lead by example because I'm on the management side of the company as well as on air, competitor and performer. So I thought if anyone's going to do it and take the risk, I'll do it, and I'll do it in my hometown.
Now, you got 10 lashes, I heard the last time. What happened with that?
I'm uncomfortable sitting in this chair at the moment because literally there's still marked around, all in the efforts to get to Revolution with myself versus MJF. There was the 10 lashes stipulation, and then the final stipulation is the cage match itself in Atlanta, and that's I've got to step into the cage, and I've got to step in there with a completely unknown X factor. We were talking size earlier, a huge competitor in Wardlow, and I'm looking forward to it. I got no scouting report on it. I'm going off gut alone.
Now, you know what? I mean, I want to talk again about, because the old-time wrestling fans love the brand of wrestling that, of course, that we saw here with Monday Nitro, and you said it's very similar. So what is it about that brand you think that brings folks, especially in the South, together to love this stuff?
Well, I think the Southern territories for wrestling, they grew up, and I grew up on just a little bit more, I guess, sports-based. Obviously there's a suspension of disbelief that comes with professional wrestling, but you've got to remember there's still this ring, and there's still these, whether it's this man versus this man or this girl versus this girl, there's still this element of reality, of wanting to beat that individual. And when you're in the South, like having just been in Huntsville or Memphis or Southern Florida or in the heart of it in Atlanta, the fans treat it as such. There's really that old school cheering for a good guy and that old school huge disdain for a bad guy. And I'm excited because a lot of our rosters never wrestled in Georgia. They've never seen State Farm Arena. They don't know about Phillips, the Omni, the Dome. They don't know about all this history. And the best way to learn is under the lights themselves. When you do something, you're like, dang, that Atlanta crowd was good.
How have you enjoyed it, Brandy? How have you enjoyed this tour and this newfound career for yourself?
It's been fantastic. It's a ground level organization. It's one that I feel like it's easy for fans to get behind because they're there from the beginning. You could have been at the first Dynamite, or you're maybe going to be at the first Dynamite ever to be in Atlanta. You're going to see the first cage match. It's a journey, and we're all taking it together. And I think that's one thing that's really different about us is our fans feel like they're a part of the journey because they are. Without them, we wouldn't be Wednesday night on TNT, and we wouldn't be coming to State Farm Arena to entertain. So.
All right, so tell us one more time. State Farm Arena, it's going to be what night?
Wednesday night, February 19th. It's live, too. That's the other thing. If you're sitting in the seats at State Farm, you are on TNT, 8 to 10 o'clock. And not only Dynamite, but there are matches before, and there's matches after that we pre-record for other content. So it's a full evening of Southern wrestling, and it's capped off by a steel cage.
Hey, you know what we got to do one last time, right? You got to.
Oh,
you got to do that, baby.
I didn't understand as a kid why they were always Rick and Dusty are always doing
man.
it.
They're always doing that, baby. That's it, man. All right. Hey, thanks so much for being here, guys.
Thank you, sir, very much. Thank you.
Great to see you.
Yeah, you too.